As we think about hope, as we think about this idea of waiting, how many like to wait? I mean, we've talked in the last few weeks, we've talked about patience. Most of us, it's something that we need to have in our lives in pretty significant ways. And it's just hard to wait. I mean, I have a hard time waiting for a minute on the microwave. Waiting feels, well, it feels inefficient. Waiting feels inconvenient. And waiting, if we're honest, waiting actually exposes what we don't control. When I think about Advent, when I think about waiting, when I think about hope, and we have to wait, and then it exposes what we don't control, and we go, what if nothing changes? What if God doesn't answer? What if I'm forgotten? But imagine not waiting for a minute. Imagine not waiting for hours or months or years. Imagine waiting 400 years. That was Israel's story. Over and over again, they were told, and not just in a whisper. This wasn't these moments where God was just quietly whispering and working in the background. No, there was these declarations about the Messiah. We read this in Isaiah where it says, for to us, the prophet Isaiah, speaking of the birth of Christ, says, for to us a child is born, to us a son is given, the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it, to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Micah speaks loudly into this prophecy about the coming Christ. He says, but you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. They were not vague spiritual ideas. These were loud declarations given to Israel that they grabbed onto and waited and waited and waited. 400 years from when Malachi, the last prophet, spoke. 400 years of silence and waiting and waiting. I want us to enter into this, to this understanding. I want this to land that we struggle to wait and yet think about the first Advent. Think about the first coming. You can almost hear their doubts rising in the silence. Maybe the world's powers are too strong. Maybe our sin is too great. Maybe God won't come through this time. Because the reality is, when the waiting is long, hope can begin to shrink. The coming of the Messiah could start to feel like something beautiful on paper, but impossible in reality. Because the coming of the Messiah took so long, it was easy for God's people to begin treating it as an impossibility. And God's people began to lose hope. And this is where this lands for us today, because for some of us, as we step into Advent with that same quiet ache, still waiting for God to answer, to heal, to break through, or to move. And when we enter Israel's story, we're not stepping into someone else's experience. We're stepping into a story that many of us understand all too well. And then after years, centuries of silence, God spoke again. And I love this, that as he spoke, an angel appears to Mary. We read about that in Luke 1:26-36. Another appears to Joseph in Matthew 1:18-24. And this is what is declared. We see a young teenage girl, a virgin, will carry the Messiah. A humble carpenter will raise God's son as his own, and this child will save his people from their sins. That is what is spoken to. After 4 centuries of silence, these words are spoken to Mary and to Joseph. And if we're being real, it sounded even more impossible than the silence. I mean, a virgin, a carpenter, a child that will save the people from their sins. What they were told seemed impossible, seemed unbelievable, and yet they stepped in hope. They pressed on. And that raises a question, at least for me: how do ordinary people like Mary and Joseph, how do ordinary people hold on to faith when everything in their lives suddenly feels overwhelming, uncertain, and humanly impossible? I want to take us to a visual moment right now. I want us to watch, and we're going to be, as we journey through Advent, we're going to be grabbing clips from The Chosen, the Holy Night, which is not scripture, but it is an amazing portrayal of what that might have been like for Mary and Joseph. And as you watch this video clip, I want you to pay attention to the questions. I want you to pay attention to the fears. And pay attention to what helps them keep pressing on.
We might see Samuel, but it's been so long. I don't know if he's living in the same home.
Hope so. You've said so much about him.
We will see. We won't have any time to look for him if he's not, of course.
We'll see.
Are we out? Not even a drop. Come
on. Joseph?
Yes?
Can you stop, please? I'd like to walk for a bit.
No, Mary. Why would you want to walk? It's dangerous.
I'm getting a bit uncomfortable. Elizabeth actually told me it's good to walk and move when I feel up to it.
We won't have any water until I get you to town. You need your rest. Let me get you more comfortable, huh?
Joseph, you don't have to be the only one walking. Plus, we're far enough away from Nazareth. Don't have to hide my condition anymore.
Mary, this blanket is stuck. There is no way that you're comfortable.
Joseph, I'd like to walk with you. Please.
I am responsible for you, Mary. For you and...
You protect us.
Yes.
I know. I'll let you help me down.
All right. You can walk for a few minutes, huh? But please, not too far. You need to save your strength.
I actually do need you to help me down.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh.
Slowly.
Easy.
Watch the baby.
Oh.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yes.
Hey.
This feels better. Thank you. Thank you for protecting me. I don't know that I've said that yet.
We have a little ways to go yet. Let's see how tonight goes and...
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about... before.
Oh. Ah.
I've been meaning to say something this whole journey, and I didn't, and I should have. I should have months ago.
You don't have to.
Yes. Yes, I do. You could have gotten all of the bride price back from my father.
It was never about the money.
I know it wasn't. And I know it's not polite to talk about, but no one would have blamed you.
For what?
For divorcing me. Publicly.
Mary,
You could be betrothed to someone that you don't have to hide. And people wouldn't be gossiping about you. And you could go be registered without having to drag me on this donkey for 5 days. Joseph. You are a brave man. And you are godly. And I should have said thank you.
God told me to.
I know he did. You had a choice.
Ah, I don't believe that I did. But I'm glad. Either way. I wouldn't change a single thing that has happened since that dream.
Neither would I.
Oh, this all seems impossible, huh?
Yes. Yes. But remember what the messenger said to me? Nothing is impossible with God.
My messenger didn't say that. That would have been nice, huh? Are you feeling better?
A bit, yes.
Okay. Up. Okay.
Okay.
We need to move quicker. You need water, and I plan to get settled for the part where your messenger and my messenger said the same thing. And she will give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. Yes, that part. Come on.
We often don't slow down and long enough to feel what Mary and Joseph were living. I don't know about you, but I'm guilty of just reading the Christmas story. The paragraphs. Read through them quickly without even pausing to remember that this journey for them was step by step, mile by mile, month after month, to 9 months later, the Messiah is born. And this is how they moved. They carried fear right beside faith. They walked through uncertainty while holding on to a word that didn't make sense yet. They lived in that sacred tension between their questions and God's promises. That was their story. Moving and trusting, trying to have hope when everything seemed impossible. When you face situations that feel impossible, what do you choose to remember about God? When you face situations that feel impossible, what do you choose to remember about God? Did you catch that subtle moment in the video clip where Joseph is tired, worried, unsure, and looks up and says, "The reason I'm doing this is because God told me to." He didn't say, "I've got this all figured out," but simply he spoke, and his word was the weight that Joseph carried. Mary, exhausted, ready to give birth, says, remember what the messenger said. In Luke 1:37, it's recorded, nothing is impossible with God. And they pressed on. And because of what God had spoken to them, because of the promises, because hope was there, they remembered. They remembered who had spoken, the God of all authority. They remembered what he had done, the God of the impossible. They remembered why he had spoken, because he was drawing near. As I entered this story this Christmas season, as I have been moving slowly in my own personal time with God, I've been moving so slowly through the accounts in Matthew and Luke. And I'm allowing myself to just really, really move slowly into Advent. And I'm sitting there thinking, imagine what this was like for them. The promise seemed impossible. And yet out of this, hope springs. And here's something beautiful: when God breaks the silence, he doesn't start with thunder or royal announcements. He starts in whispers. He whispered to them, spoke gently in a dream to ordinary, unnoticed people. People no one else would have chosen, but people he trusted to carry his promise. And he still does that today. As you sit here today, I wonder if there's some area in your life where you're just needing the whisper of God that you can hold on to and know that even though it seems impossible, there's hope. Mary's words, nothing is impossible with God, weren't just a slogan for her. They weren't something she came up with to sound spiritual. They were rooted in long, concrete history of God doing what no one else believed was possible. God gave Abraham and Sarah a child in their old age. God split the Red Sea and rescued Israel from Egypt. God brought down Jericho's walls with trumpets. God toppled Goliath through a shepherd boy. God sustained his people in the wilderness. It goes on and on. And the coming of Jesus was never an impossibility, because God had already proven time and time again that nothing was beyond his power. Every miracle in the Old Testament wasn't just a moment, it was training. Training for hope, training for trust, training for Advent. Advent means coming. Remembering for us is what steadies our faith when everything else feels uncertain. Remembering is what lets courage take form in us again. Remembering is what keeps hope alive when the night runs so long. As I think about how Mary and Joseph remembered who God was, even though 400 years of silence, it created in them something that could be trusted in the light, even when everything seemed impossible. And then you fast forward to today and our waiting. I heard it mentioned here already this morning. There is this just waiting for Jesus to come again. I've had a couple conversations this week as I had to sit on Monday and just deal with this issue of having this fraud in our banking. I'm like, Jesus, just come. Just come. Enough is enough. There are moments where we face things that just seem so desperate that was like, Jesus, please come. Advent, as I said, means coming, and we look back to Jesus' first coming, but we also look forward to him coming again. And here we are again, waiting. It's been over 2,000 years this time. And like Israel, maybe doubts start to creep in. Maybe we wonder, is it possible? Maybe we wonder, are there issues too great? Maybe we wonder if he's ever coming back, and because we see the world's brokenness. We see wars, disasters, injustice, and we feel the weight of it. It was interesting, as some of you know, I supply teach once in a while at the high school. This past week, I was supply teaching, and I was covering it was a careers class, grade 10 careers class. And as I looked at what the class was looking at that day, I was like really excited about this. I'm like, this is pretty cool. The first, like they were looking at time management, and I'm like talking to these grade 10s, and I'm like, you guys need to figure this out. and then we got talking about just attitudes and workplace and what it means to have what we looked at 15 traits that employers often look for in people to be hired. And then we watched a TED Talk on redefining success. And I have been talking to my girls about this a lot in the past few years, where it's just like we grow up with success means having a lot of money. Success means having this house and having this nice car, and that's what it means to be success. And I'm like, we have to stop this. We have to redefine success. Success isn't what you have. Success is who you are, and having a character that changes the world around you. Not that money and stuff is wrong, but we have focused too long as a society that this is what success looks like. And then in this world, in this economy, when success is like, well, if that's success, how am I ever going to get there? The cost of homes? If that's success, there's no hope. And I talked to these are grade 10 kids. And I said to them, how many of you, when you think about this broken world and all the problems going on, I said, you're in grade 10. I said, hands up when you think about your future after school. Hands up if you feel no hope. They all put their hands up. These are grade 10 kids. And I talked to them in that moment in the classroom, and I said, this is why you have to redefine success. Success is who you are. It's about having a character that changes the world around you and makes it better. Because in this world, we feel the brokenness. And sometimes it feels like the silence just stretches. Some of you feel this deeply. I know as I look out that you're carrying burdens that feel heavy. I know stories as I look out. I know your stories. And I know that you are carrying burdens that feel heavy. You're praying for things that feel delayed. And you're waiting for God in the places that feel dry. Advent meets us right there. Advent gives us permission to be honest about the ache and invites us into a hope that is stronger than our circumstances. Amen? Advent invites us into a hope that's stronger than our circumstances. And here's the truth that anchors both Advents. The truth that anchors the first coming and the next coming is this: the second coming of Jesus is never an impossibility, because nothing is impossible with God. And we need to, in this waiting, remember, like Mary and Joseph, Remember that Jesus really did come. Remember his death and resurrection and victory over sin and death that we celebrated this morning. Remember that against all odds, his church has endured and spread. When you look at the local church and how it started, only God. Only God. And remember the times he showed up in your own life when it seemed impossible. As I look out, I'm not going to call people by names, but I know stories where you were in something where it seemed impossible. And as you look back, you can see God. And we have to remember. Because here's what waiting does. If we wait and we lose hope, it tries to make your heart forget. It tries to shrink your hope. And it tries to convince you that maybe this time God won't move. But Advent doesn't just tell us to wait. Advent teaches us how to wait. We wait with eyes lifted, with hearts anchored, with memories awakened. And I pray for us that as we enter Advent, as we come into this first season, this first week, of hope, my prayer for you as we look for hope in different areas in our lives, that your memories get awakened. That you remember the faithfulness of God. Because if he's done it before, he will do it again. Because he is constant. He is consistent. And he's never changing. And today, as we enter this first week of Advent, we light this first candle, the candle of hope. And we remember that Advent begins in the waiting, in the questions, the longing, the places where we're still asking God to move. We're making a declaration as we focus on the hope. We are making a declaration that even here, even now, hope has a name, and it's Jesus. Not hope in ourselves, not hope in politics, not hope in systems or strengths from anywhere else. Our hope rests in this unshakable truth: nothing is impossible with God. Friends, hope isn't pretending things are fine or offering wishful thinking. Hope is the steady confidence that what God has promised, he will finish. As we enter this season, can you join me and just slow down? Don't rush past this moment. Let hope rise again. Let God speak into the very places where you've begun to whisper, maybe this is impossible. And if you're asking, how do I carry hope this week? 2 suggestions. First, create space in each day for hope attention. A few quiet minutes to turn toward God's promises. Just in the quiet. What has God promised in relation to what you hope for? And then just simply say, Lord, ground me in your hope today. The second thing practically is take one small act of courage. Hope always moves us towards obedience, even in small steps. A small act of faith often becomes the doorway where hope enters in. Maybe for you, that small act of courage is simply praying an honest prayer that you've been avoiding. Naming the place where you're tired. Naming the place where you feel uncertain or stuck. It doesn't fix everything in a moment, but it opens the door for hope to meet you where you are. Maybe it's reaching out to someone, offering forgiveness, asking for help, or showing kindness when you don't feel like you have much to give. It's a small, almost hidden step. Yet those are often the moments where God begins to grow hope in us again. Because this is what I have confidence in. The God who stepped into the darkness then is still stepping into the darkness now. And every time he comes, the darkness loses ground. I wanted to give us a moment to sit with this. I'm going to ask that just where you are, to just maybe bow your heads. And I want you to be thinking about hope. Where do I need hope? Advent begins right where we are still waiting, right where we feel the gap between what is and what we're praying God will make it. Right where hope feels stretched or fragile or quiet. So I want to invite you now to name that place in your life where you need the hope of Christ to meet you. Just name that place in your life where you need the hope of Christ to meet you. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a decision. Maybe it's your own heart. Wherever it is, this is what I love about Jesus. He is not intimidated by anything that we bring. Wherever you need the hope of Christ to meet you, bring it to him. Bring it before him.